Kenyan investment company TransCentury reported a 38% jump in pre-tax profit in 2011 from 2010 to sit at 869.3 million shillings. We get a look at the numbers now with Gachao Kiuna. He's CEO of TransCentury. A very warm welcome to you, Gachao.
Thank you.
Well, let's just talk about some of the issues that did weigh down not only on your earnings, but also other companies, particularly in Kenya, when it comes to volatility of the current currency, the volatility of interest rates. And yet you say even in that environment, you were able to mitigate the effect by some fundamentals that were really strong in your sector. Going forward, what developments in the regions that you're operating in right now will continue to support that growth?
I think the real opportunity is that the markets that we operate in still remain underserved. So there's a lot of potential for top-line growth of the business. Doing that really helps to leverage a lot of economies of scale, which is helping to cushion some of the impacts of these short-term shocks that we're seeing.
Well, let's just talk a little bit about some of the things that you did last year. You listed on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. You issued the first ever listed convertible Eurobond by an East African insurer. And yet, even with all these developments, since you listed mid-July last year, it seems as though your stock has come under pressure. I mean, pre-August, we were looking at your stock at around 60 shillings. Now it's down to about 20 shillings. What do you think has been weighing on the investor's mind?
No, I think, well, all counters have been under pressure on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. It's not just specific to us. And there hasn't been that much, liquidity in the local market. Hasn't been a great deal, especially of domestic capital coming in. And also from the foreign investor perspective, there's been a sort of limited participation. From our perspective, we have a very long-term view. The way we look at it is to really focus on trying to drive growth across the business. We've just made a very strategic and large acquisition, which in 2012 should have a significant impact on the business going forward. So, we take a longer-term view. We expect some of these short-term issues to arise, in our perspective, these will not be long-lived. It will be relatively short-lived.
Gachao, do talk to us about that acquisition that you've just made.
Sure. We've made an acquisition of our EPC construction company. It's called Civicon. It's the largest player in the region, really focused on three key areas. The first is oil and gas, and as you can imagine, there's a big expansion in the oil and gas industry in the region with some of the finds that have happened locally. The second is mining with a lot of increased activity now, especially with the high gold prices, a lot of gold mining activity across the region that we've been involved in through Civicon. And then thirdly, power. A lot of power generation projects coming up. I think power is one of the areas across Africa, but in East Africa is really true. It's hugely underpenetrated. It's really come under pressure because there just isn't enough supply to meet the demand. A lot of committed capital and projects in that sector in which we're actively participating, which is quite exciting.
Just looking at your share price and how it's been doing, it seemed to rally on the back of the acquisition of Civicon. But let's just move on to some of the projects that you're running. Zambia and the DRC projects, they seem to weigh on your earnings. I would imagine that would be because you're laying infrastructure in those areas. When do you expect to have to see significant positive returns on those investments made in Zambia and in the DRC?
I think Zambia is likely to turn around quicker. Zambia, we're really focused in the Copperbelt region in Dola and Kitwe, where we've been serving some of our key mining clients. That's really an area where we are seeing tremendous excitement and investment happening. There are a lot of new mines coming up. And as that happens, then that creates a huge opportunity for us. DRC, we're really been focused across northeastern DRC, Lubumbashi area, as well as across into Kinshasa. We're getting a lot of positive movement, especially across Lubumbashi. That has helped to really drive, I think, a lot of our earnings in the Eastern African business. It's really on the west side of DRC, more the Kinshasa area, which is taking longer to ramp up. We've just built a new facility there, and it's really just a question of time as we scale up. Last year was a difficult year, as you can imagine, because there were elections in the Democratic Republic of Congo, so we didn't scale up as quickly as we'd have liked, which had its own challenges. But within 2012, I think as now that it's not an election year and as things normalize in DRC, then I think that you'll start to see some positive news coming out of that investment.